Welcome to the Everything Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of the Everything Podcast, which is Episode 19 of the Everything Podcast overall. Now, this episode is going to be quite different because there hasn't been any movie or TV news, which I tend to do. So I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to talk about something which is incredibly important and I've experienced it very recently. So if you listen to the first ever episode of the podcast, which was in April, May time 2022, I explained that my dad had sadly passed away November last year, which was November 2021. And I talk about what happened, which was obviously very personal, very emotional. And yeah, so that's what I did in that. So what I thought I'd do today, as next week, well, not next week, but next time I do the podcast will be episode 20, and I wanted to do some nice stuff for that. I thought, because there was no news this week, that I'd talk about mental health, actually, and social media and everything around that. So, in the first episode, I did talk about it, because actually, the Everything Podcast, the name of it, actually, it was supposed to be for everything. So episode 1 was grief. I did one on university, and I think the reason why it went for TV and movie was because I did one on last year's San Diego Comic Con, as well as the D23, which was in September, I think. So yeah, that's why I did that, and I just kind of preferred doing that kind of stuff. But I think doing like odd ones. So TV and movie, that's not changing, that's still going to be there, but there might be the odd one where there's not much news. Like, I want to do a podcast, but obviously there's no news, so what should I do instead? Yeah, and it's just about being nice and kind, and like it, even at, because I was still in sixth form at the time, it was like, oh, you're fine, and yeah, you can try and pretend as much as you like I did for a while. But yeah, you never know what's happening in someone's personal life. So it's just kind of being mindful of what you say, both like in person if you're having a conversation, and online as well. And I think it's very important. And as always, I want to thank Matthew who animates all the episodes. Because the first episode, I think it was the first 3, they weren't animated because I hadn't spoken to Matthew yet. But yeah, so this episode is just about being nice, and yeah, I should say, I'm in a much better place now than I was, because it had been same May, so it would have been about 6 months since my dad passed away, but now we're over a year and a half, and yeah, so I'm in a much better place, and so it's just about, and on the flip side, it's keeping an eye on other people. So if it could be a family member, a friend, someone at work, out of work, like anyone. Yeah. So yeah, I know it's a bit stop-starty. It's a bit. Yeah, not what I'd usually talk to. But I do want to say thank you if you've listened to all 19 episodes of the podcast, or you've just listened to one. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, episode 20, we're probably looking about 2 weeks-ish time, hopefully. So yeah, in about 2 weeks, I will record another one. Hopefully we'll have some news to talk about, because yeah, it's only going to be about a 5-minute long podcast, this one, because there's not much news. Obviously, the main stuff I talk about, all the Marvel stuff, like they've switched some dates around, but I didn't really think that was something. I wanted to try and get some other Marvel stuff to try and do that, because I've done, like, obviously I did San Diego Comic Con, so that was DC and Marvel, like, show. I did D23, which was strictly Disney. I've done 2 Neighbours, like only ones, and then I've done segments. The last one had, I think, all 3 of those things in, yeah, and I kind of did it that way. And if you want to get in touch with me at any point, it is everythingpodcast2022@gmail.com via email, and everythingpodc on Twitter if you want to get in touch with me that way as well. So all I say is thank you to Matthew, and thank you to everyone for watching. I will see you for what will be season 2, episode 10, which will be in line with what I ended up. So how the seasons work is at the end of the year, that's when it finishes. So the last episode that I recorded the year, and so in January we'll go into season 2. That's the way I do it. But obviously, because I didn't start till nearly halfway through the year last year, that's why. So we'll be episode 20. Yeah, so hopefully we can get to episode 25 by the end of the year. That's the hope. So yeah, that was it for season 2, episode 9 of the Everything Podcast. I will see you for the next episode really soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Everything Podcast. If you want to get in touch with me at any time, you can do it in a variety of ways. You can email everythingpodcast2022@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at everythingpodc. You can also find me on YouTube by searching for the Everything Podcast. I'll see you for the next episode of the Everything Podcast.